Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Wiki Weekdays podcast. I am your co-host for the week, as usual, Lucas Holland, and I'm joined, as always, by the lovely Karl Smallwood.
I am lovely, thank you very much, and I am drinking my cup of mud.
Yeah, what are you drinking? Because it just looked like you've got, Bovril in there or something.
It is an iced coffee.
Right, it's a very dark iced coffee.
It's also, as well, it's not got a lot of ice in there.
Because usually...
iced coffee normally has, a lot of, ice in there, so it looks clearer, but that's, what black coffee looks like when it's just got one massive fat ice cube in it.
That's the thing is, you imagine when people, talk about, oh, I got an iced coffee, it's they've gone and got, the super milky, Starbucks iced coffee with, 1,000 calories in it and, shit ton of sugar. And, I'm exaggerating, but, they always have so much sugar and stuff in them, and it's, they're some of the unhealthiest thing that people buy, but it's always I'm gonna get my iced coffee and go to the gym and stuff, and it's dude, that is not healthy for you.
I started drinking black coffee when someone pointed out to me it's got 0 calories. I know it's got some, but when someone said it's basically calorie neutral, I went, well, there we go. So just black coffee all the way, because you don't have to feel bad about drinking it.
That's the thing is I rarely drink coffee anymore because working from home, I don't need that caffeine necessarily, but when I do, it's usually just an Americano with a tiny splash of milk and a bit of sugar. But every now and then, whenever I go and get a coffee outside, it's get me a mocha, fill me with the bad stuff.
Well, I started this morning. I did my protein shake. So I put a shot of espresso in my protein shake.
Mm-hmm.
That energy boost, and take my pills. And then I had while I was just reading a book, waiting for you to hop online, I had another one. So it's I always have 3 in a day.
Fair. As long as you don't be that person that's I've only had 5 monsters today. I'm going to be okay.
That's the thing.
Oh, that's probably bad.
So I limit myself. I have 3 coffees. One when I first wake up. One just before I start work, because there's an hour or so break while I exercise, shower, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have one about halfway through the afternoon, which is when we're recording this, which is normally while I'm working. Do you just having it on the side or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
could be worse. My mum has 10. My mum has 10 coffees a day.
That's the thing, and I don't want to be that person that's I went caffeine-free, and I feel so good about it, and I'm so natural. It's no, I just sit at a desk most of the day, and I don't need that energy to work. But
do you know how coffee is one of the oldest things that humans have been consuming? And do you know how we figured it out? It's because supposedly it comes from Ethiopia, and it was an Ethiopian goat farmer 1,000 years ago. It's my goats are really active today, and they've been chewing on some seeds. So he tried one of them and felt better, and went, "Oh, we should probably do something with these seeds." And that's why cool. Ethiopian coffee is supposedly the best coffee in the world. And I've been hankering to try some proper Ethiopian dark coffee for ages, but it's been difficult to find an Ethiopian coffee house.
All these Brexit import costs and all.
Well, there's Ethiopian restaurants, but I feel bad going into a restaurant just to get a coffee.
Yes.
And obviously when you go to Starbucks, or not Starbucks now because they support genocide, Costa or Cafe Nero, you're it's always let's try a Colombian blend. I've never heard Ethiopian blend, but but apparently it's so strong, people can't handle.
Oh, yeah.
There's someone who likes dark, strong coffee, and I really like the bitterness of coffee. I'd be it's when you hear about there's those super secret Red Bulls that they can't sell over here because the amount of E numbers that's in them. It's I want to try it. I want to try the Forbidden America Red Bull.
Oh, but we're not here to talk about caffeine for an hour, Karl. We are, of course, talking about whatever wiki entries we have brought this week. Yes. And, of course, on this podcast, you need to let us know which wiki won this week, which just means which wiki brought, the best discussion to the table. Mm-hmm. And we are going to start this week with handing it over to Karl. And, Karl, what have you brought for us wiki-wise this week?
Well, the reason I was, bringing up coffee so much is because we're talking about something today that is very fast, very speedy.
Are we talking about Sonic the Hedgehog?
No, we're talking about a race that is very fast, a speed race, if you will.
Oh, we're talking about Speed Racer.
We're talking about the 2008 sports action comedy film Speed Racer.
Holy shit, we are talking about Speed Racer, okay.
So this has been on my mind for a while, because if people consume all the content we make, Wiki Weekends and Fact Feed and our streams and stuff, you might notice that we go through periods of talking about the same thing. We'll mention the same joke or the same clip from a TV show multiple times throughout recording, because that's just the thing that was in our head the week we recorded all that content.
Of course, yeah.
And we recently recorded, I forget where it came up, but it was a fact fiend video about, what was it about what we mentioned? Speaks, you did the edit, do you remember?
I did do the edit, but I don't remember. That was like over a week ago.
But a conversation about Speed Racer came up where we talk about in the video how Speed Racer is a film that both myself and you got tricked into buying on Blu-ray.
Yes, that is true.
Because the story, again, I'll tell the story again. Why not? It's my story. I can reuse it. When I first got a PlayStation 4, and like that was my first jump to a console or a device that could play Blu-rays.
I remember what it was now, Carl. It was the Terminator video.
The Terminator video.
Because you were talking about like media that holds up well on Blu-ray.
Yes.
And this is not it.
And while I was like looking at what Blu-rays to buy, I did some research online to find out, 'cause not all Blu-rays are created equal. For example, we talking about Speed Race, which is directed by the Wachowskis, or the Wachowskis. Some people pronounce it the Wachowskis. I always get people pick me up on calling them the Wachowskis, even though that's how the name is pronounced.
I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? You're probably going to get corrected either way you use it.
I think they use Wachowskis and Wachowskis. Do that thing of like American interviewers call them the Wachowskis and they just don't correct them.
Right.
Like same thing when we talked about like Scarlett Johansson, where she says Johansson. It's like, no, interviewers say Johansson and she doesn't correct them because she's too polite.
And that's the thing, even if she does say Johansson, like, our point still stands of Johansson is like the actual Danish way to pronounce it.
It's the Danish pronunciation, same with like the Wachowskis. But anyway, so bringing it back to Blu-rays, the Wachowskis directed The Matrix, which has an infamous Blu-ray special release that they had to go back in and fix.
Oh, right.
So there's a Blu-ray version of The Matrix where they overdid the green tint, and they put the green tint that's present in The Matrix over every single scene.
It's got like the piss filter on it.
And people might think, what do you mean by that? Well, The Matrix, there's a lot of like use of color theory in that movie. Very basic color theory, but people who like The Matrix think it's deep as shit. But when there's a scene set within The Matrix, everything has a green tint. And they did this in multiple ways. They did this through the camera work, by they put a slight green filter over in post-production. They also did a green wash on every person's outfit. For example, the shirt that Neo wears during the interrogation scene, the white shirt, is actually slightly green. And the production designer in charge of the costume designer took his outfit, washed it in green dye, and then washed it 20 times to get the green dye out, but there's a little bit of green left.
Oh, so you mean like physical washing, not like...
Physical washing, yes. And then afterwards...
production washing kind of thing, yeah.
And then in post-production, they also put a slight green tint over some scenes, but everything is just a little bit of hint of green, because green is a colour that makes people feel uneasy. And it represents that you're in the Matrix, because the colour scheme for the Matrix is green, like the green text. And when you're outside of the Matrix, the colour scheme is blue, because it contrasts quite well with green. So the real world is blue, the Matrix is green. But when they were doing the Blu-ray version, they got the original, just raw cut and put the green filter over everything, including scenes in the real world.
Which completely goes against the point, yeah.
And the Wachowskis got annoyed, and they did a re-release of The Matrix that fixed all this. But then they overcorrected and removed the green filter from some of the scenes that are set within The Matrix, and then there's another version. And that's what I mean, like, not all Blu-rays are created equal. And more recently, have you heard about the stuff with AI being a thing? I've got like True Lies on DVD down there. One of my favourite, Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies. Have you seen what they've done with True Lies?
No.
They've done like an Ultra HD pass with AI.
Oh, no.
And it's currently the version that's available on Disney.
Oh, right, okay.
So obviously... So that's the only version you can watch. And they've fucked it up. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, they've added like more lines to his face where there wouldn't be lines. Because the AI just tries to add detail where there's no detail. It's exaggerated detail where there's no detail before. Similarly, music videos. Do you like music videos from the 2010s, Lucas? Do you like All American Rejects, Fat Lip by Sum 41?
I mean, that's definitely not 2010's Fat Lip.
But yeah. I'm trying to think. In my mind, it's hard to do. But do you like those music videos?
That's the thing is, 2010s I can't specifically say too because I was a bigger fan of like 90s and 2000s because like, you know, I watched music, television, MTV and stuff back then.
Would you remember those old music videos of like, you know, the one for like Fat Lip, the one for like the All American Rejects, like the Green Day ones, stuff
of course,
like that?
Yeah, like Chili Peppers and Foo Fighters. I love their music videos because they do a lot of like jokey stuff with them.
So fun fact, if you go and try and watch those on the official Vivo pages, they've all undergone, without any sort of warning or announcement, weird AI filters to make them look better.
Yay.
Yeah. And a lot of people think they look worse. Like, you know, a lot of people with eyeballs and an understanding of production processes.
It reminds me of like those TVs with the built-in like motion smoothing 60 frames a second mode and shit.
Did you see like they actually, I think it was like David Fincher released a PSA of like, please stop watching Mindhunter with motion smoothing on.
I think a lot of directors, like a lot of the time publicly say like the motion smoothing, like the 60 FPS, the motion blur, like turn all of those extra smart TV settings the fuck off.
They make films look worse.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't know what we're talking about. Like, motion smoothing is the thing that makes movies look like EastEnders. Back to my point of, like, not all Blu-rays are created equally. Like, you know, the quality can vary even between releases of the same film.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to get, like, the best versions of some of my favourite films, and maybe some films I've not seen or haven't appreciated in their full quality. And I got recommended, or I saw guides online talking like, the Blu-ray for Terminator 2 is like really good because not only does it have a bunch of extra material about the production of the movie, like a documentary and the commentary tracks, which I love. It also, like, you know, the effects hold up, and the past they've done to improve the quality was really well done. Likewise, The Matrix. I've got The Matrix on Blu-ray, but I had to look up the specific version so I know which version to get. And then I just saw a lot of articles, a lot of like forums, a lot of threads. Do you know what really movies like really good? Speed Racer. And Lucas is just shaking his head. And I was like, and I saw so many people talking about how good Speed Racer looks. I went, well, I'll get that as well. It's £2. Got it. First things first, it's 215 minutes long. Great.
Way too long for any like weird, shitty, cartoony anime adaptation needs to be. Like, especially a very, you know, jokey, comedic one.
Yeah, and then I saw as well that the Wachowskis did it. Went, oh no, the Wachowskis they've had one good movie in 20 years. And people always say, oh, what about Jupiter Ascending? Jupiter Ascending sucks. And they'll say, no, what about V for Vendetta? V for Vendetta sucks.
I mean,
V for Vendetta is good when you're 14.
Yeah,
same as like Watchmen.
V for Vendetta is one of those of similar to a Zack Snyder movie where at least like a lot of the visuals are very cool and some of the action is like done rather well, but like it doesn't hold up any further than that.
Yeah, it's like my favorite Letterboxd review of the Joker, which is like one line long and says a paddling pool feels deep if you've never swam in the ocean.
And yeah, both of those are like great examples of, you know, Hugo Weaving, great actor, very charming. Joaquin Phoenix, great actor, very charming. But like, doesn't mean that movie is great. It means those performances are good.
Do you know what I like as well? Hugo Weaving has a very expressive face. Like he's a very good, expressive actor. Let's put a mask on him. Okay, I'll continue. I'm just going to let that sit.
Yeah, like, I don't have anything other than just laugh because, like, yeah, I mean, for anyone that doesn't remember who Hugo Weaving is, it's like
Agent Smith
from The Matrix.
Anyway, like, I bought this movie, and I remember at the time I was there with my ex-girlfriend, and we'd watched like a couple of movies, and we had a movie night, like we watched, and we were skipping through some of them, just to, like, watch the big scene. Like, I put Terminator 2 on, because like, oh, it's one of my favourite movies, and we were like, you know, looking at like, man, that T-1000 still looks great. Then we put on like King Kong, like Kong Skull Island, like, you know, the gorilla. It's like, see all like the bristles on his fur and stuff. And then we went, should we put Speed Racer on? And we pulled that on. I remember we sat there, and after about 10 minutes, we just looked at you and went, should we fast forward to like the racing? And we went, yeah. And I remember we were fast forwarding, and we were fast forwarding for a long time. And she just looked at me and went, how long is this movie? Like, it's got to be 90 minutes, right? It's got to be 90 minutes. Like, you know, and she got the box, went, it's 215 minutes. I went, no. And it was, and like, you have a similar story, I imagine.
Yeah, and I presume it's 135, right? It's like 2 hours, 15 minutes is what you meant. I think. I don't think it's like 3 hours something.
I can't. Sorry, yeah. It's 2 hours, 15 minutes. I keep saying 215. It's 2 hours, but in my head, at the back of the box, I looked at it before we record. I remember 2:15.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
No,
Still,
I was
2 hours,
just
15.
before the comments came at you, but like,
Just what, like, it's. My apologies.
Yeah,
you know what? Obviously, I've either had too much coffee or not enough today.
I remember that moment of like, oh yeah, you know, if you're a fan of these other like anime adaptations and these other cool action movies, like go hunt down Speed Racer. Like it's really good. And there's two Blu-rays that I've been tricked into watching and buying. It was that one, and it was the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs Superman. It's like,
you cannot make it's so bad. And the problem is, like, the Wachowskis had one good movie. And here's the thing about Hollywood, folk. You can coast off one good movie for an entire career. Mm-hmm. And the Wachowskis are the perfect example of this. They made one good movie that is mostly ripped off from other people's stuff.
And to be fair,
that's the thing as well. In recent years, people realize, oh, wow, yeah. The Matrix is like, they've ripped it off of like 4 comic books. There's like a comic book that's just The Matrix that they ripped off. And they said, no, we're homaging it.
Like, I think maybe back in the 90s, like back in 99, they got away with it a lot more because anime wasn't as like prevalent in the West and people hadn't discovered as much anime and manga that they'd ripped off. But at the same time, they did bring out a Hollywood movie that was very influential in Hollywood. Like,
and the people
to
say
this
the
day.
action's good. And it's like they didn't direct the action, Yuan Wu Ping did.
Right, yeah.
And then as well, I can't not mention like ripping off anime without mentioning like another filmmaker, which is what's he called? Christopher Nolan. With Inception, where Inception is just an anime called Paprika.
Oh, right,
like,
okay.
Straight up to the point where like the person who made it assumed it was an adaptation and wonder why they didn't get any money for it. And Christopher Nolan has never acknowledged that he ripped it off.
No.
Anyway, Speed Racer is a 2008 sports action comedy film written and directed by the Wachowskis, based on the manga series of the same name and created by Tatsuo Yoshida. The film stars Emile Hirsch, Christina Ricci, John Goodman, Susan Sarandon, Matthew Fox, Roger Allen, Benno Furman, Hiroyuki Sanada, Rain, and Richard Roundtree. And just the idea they got: Richard Roundtree, Shaft, and John Goodman. And they got bad performances out of both of them.
And, there's a couple of other names in there, like you said, Susan Sarandon, Christina Ricci as well.
Yep.
And they're both, like, really good actors. And it's like,
yep.
Yeah, every actor's appeared in, like, some shit as well, and this is one of those.
The idea that, I guess we get to that after we start. So, a live-action Speed Racer film had been in development hell since 1992, having changed actors and filmmakers until at least 2006, when producer Joel Silver and the Wachowskis collaborated to begin production on the film. Speed Racer was shot in and around Potsdam and Berlin from June to August 2007. It grossed $93.9 million worldwide on a $120 million budget, making it a box office bomb. It was nominated for multiple categories at the Teen Choice Awards as well as the Golden Raspberry Awards. Which just sums it up, doesn't it?
Give it those Razzies, it needs it.
In subsequent years, Speed Racer has garnered a strong cult following on social media, which I'm aware of, because I think I tweeted out, oh, me and Lucas shit on Speed Racer. Oh, I apologise to Lucas for having to get clips of Speed Racer for this episode of the... And I got, like, a guy whose account is just a picture of the Mark V, like, you're wrong. And his entire account is just pictures of the Mark V. And it's like, these people exist.
Yeah.
This is it. And if you go look at the comments of that video, it's a bunch of people, no, Speed Racer's great. You just, like, shitting on it because, like, it's colourful and fun. It's like, so are a lot of movies. And they don't make me want to turn the movie off.
Like, Karl and I have mentioned many a time that we, like, classify ourselves as weebs. And
huge weebs, huge nerds.
Love anime and, pick up manga every now and then. But obviously, manga, when we want physical books like me and Karl do, is quite expensive.
$9,000.
But, we mainly consume anime. And, yeah, we mainly consume, like, big, dumb, stupid, colourful anime as well on top of that. It's like, we're not afraid of that kind of action or movie.
It's fascinating. It's like the idea of like someone's like making a 6 out of 10 movie their entire personality.
6 out of 10's generous as well. Like, yeah, attaching your personality to such a mediocre to bad film is so weird. Like, The Matrix is right there.
And I guess as well, because like it has this like reputation of just like kind of being shat on. Like, they always have that thing of like it never got its due, and that's why I saw a lot of things like, here's a film that never got it was too ahead of its time.
People love underdogs, don't they?
People weren't ready for like, entirely CG race sequences and the colourful movie. I went, okay, let's go watch that. And it's like the CG looks terrible. People say, oh, it's colourful and bright like the anime. And it goes, okay, but it looks bad.
And
like, it's colourful, but it's colourful in service of bad action.
Yeah, it's one of those of like, I wouldn't mind it as much if at least they were correct about like the racing scene at the end being cool, but it's not.
It has no weight.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, I think the problem is that the anime was really dumb. And I know people are going to say the original wasn't, but people aren't familiar with it. When you say Speed Racer, they don't think of the original anime. They think of the Western dub where they all speak really fast.
Is that because
go, I will race real fast now and I will do it to challenge my father, haha. And that's because the dubbers were told you have to get across this much information, but there's only like 2 seconds the character's on screen. So they have to speak really quick to get all the information across.
Yeah, it's like Japanese as a language is a lot more efficient than English in terms of like how much you have to say to get your point across. So generally, like, whenever I see like a lot of speedruns and like people will play in language options like Japanese, so the language is faster than English, for example.
Yeah, and you can say it's not accurate to the original source material, but that's the version of a source material 95% of the audience for this film would be familiar with. And the fact they didn't play into the hammy, campy nature of it, like they did with the visuals, the film is visually very camp, but the acting is so fucking serious.
And
like, you get John Goodman not John Goodman in it up. And like, he doesn't John Goodman it up.
That's just like such the weird thing, isn't it? Of like the tone shift between like them being super serious and then you pan to like a car gliding gently across like a non-existent track.
It's like the bit right at the end where like he has the flashback to his brother, and it's like Matthew Fox's face like glides in. And you think this is the moment where you do like the over-the-top thing, like you have to remember to go fast. And he's just talking just like normal. He's like he's on an episode of Lost. It's like no, that's the moment where you got to overact. You want to be super like
straight pan dead to camera, like you don't have to be a driver, you have to be driven, or something along that lines, like shit line X. But
it feels like they should have acted like they were in the Zoolander movies. Do you like the Zoolander movies where there's some people in that were serious, and they should have had those actors playing against people acting like Derek Zoolander. But do you like that tone where they're saying ridiculous things in a way where they know it's ridiculous instead of treating it so seriously?
Yeah, that's the thing is, I should say, I haven't read the original manga or watched the original anime, but I have seen like clips of the dumb, silly Western version, and like it would have been fun if we just got a 90-minute movie of that, and like maybe I could have forgiven the weird floaty CGI, and when I say like the non-existent track, I just mean that the car clearly doesn't ever make like an impact to any of the tracks. Like it looks like fucking Spy Kids 3D, where like nothing is actually touching each other. It's like two separate entities that don't exist on the same plane, and they just kind of are there together.
Yeah, and I would have really, really liked it if they just had like, you get John Goodman like when the car's crashing. You want people to go, do that super over-exaggerated, like, anime thing where it's like, oh, you want that? And instead it's like John Goodman's like, it's like, he's got such an expressive face, let him emote.
He's like he's watching fucking Ford versus Ferrari or something.
It's so weird. But pre-production. In October 2006, the Wachowskis were brought on board by the studio to write and direct the film. Producer Joel Silver, who will collaborate with the Wachowskis for V for Vendetta and the trilogy Matrix, or the Matrix trilogy, I should say, explained that they were hoping to reach a broader audience with a film that would not be rated R by the Motion Picture Association of America. R.
Speed Racer's not something that would be rated R anyway, right?
No, but they started The Matrix, got some guns and violence, and then V for Vendetta. They wanted to make something with broader appeal. Visual effects designer John Gator, who won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects for The Matrix, was brought on to help conceive making Speed Racer into a live-action adaptation. So they had an a literal Academy Award-winning visual effects director on that film.
That's the weird thing is a lot of like the Smith clones don't hold up great, but there's quite a lot of the Matrix trilogy that visually holds up very well, and like you know, you get moments where it's the motorway fight scene in the second movie where like that shit still looks really cool. Yes. And yeah, a lot of the CGI full human bodies don't, but other than that, it holds up quite well.
But here's the thing, Lucas. This is where I think like the Wachowskis are hacks, because do you know the opinion people have and the stereotype you have of like Matrix fans who like talk about it as if it's like high art? Mm-hmm. And the thing I always reference is the Matrix references and directly name drops a lot of heady philosophical themes. For example, the work of Jean Baudrillard, the French philosopher, in his work Simulacrum and Simulation, I think it is. I always forget the way they go around. Mm-hmm. And like to the point where that book is directly name dropped in the film. It's the book that Neo opens to put in the file that he gets right at the start. And the Wachowskis, they love that they reference all this stuff, and they gave every actor a bunch of like heady philosophical tomes that they were instructed they had to read and be able to write a thesis on to understand their film. Someone managed to corner Jean Baudrillard before he died and asked him, have you seen The Matrix? He's like, yeah. Do you know it references your work? He's like, does it? Well, yes. It's like, what would you say to the Wachowskis? Like, they do not understand my work. They fundamentally misunderstand the point I was making. Yeah. It's that. So it's like, it's more like, and I should probably say maybe the stereotype people have of film students. Mm-hmm. Film students think they're hot shit. Yes. So I read one book and now I'm an expert on it. Mm-hmm. That's the Wachowskis. And you might think that's a bit of an unfair reading. What makes you think that, Karl? Well, producer Joel Silver describes Speed Racer as a family film in line with the Wachowskis' goal to reach a wider audience. So you want to see it as a family-friendly, fun action romp. However, contrary to the apparent mainstream appeal of the project, the directors decide to take the source material in an avant-garde direction, declaring, okay, we're going to assault every single modern aesthetic with this film.
Did you say assault?
Yes, we are going to assault every single modern aesthetic. They deliberately made it look ugly to be avant-garde and different.
Yeah, you can feel it. Jesus.
They continue. So Warner Bros. Were initially gleeful that the directors chose to take on a known entity that seemed like a family movie for kids, but when executives reviewed the work in progress, they were like, oh my god, are you insane? What are you doing? This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And we were all like, yes, that's the reason we're making it.
And Warner Bros. They're like, that's not the reason we fucking hired you to do this, though.
For the Wachowskis, the film presented a unique opportunity to experiment with techniques of postmodernist cinema, as they believe the film's younger target audience will be more receptive to radical experimentalism than adults. And it's like, it's just word salad, right? You can feel the pretentious film student energy radiating off these statements, can't you? Like, we got tasked with making a simple family-friendly romp with a well-known property a lot of people have an affinity for. No, we're going to make it arty and avant-garde. It's like, do you know what avant-garde means? And like, no, but we're going to make, we know that's a word you say.
That's like what I was confused about, is because it's just meant to be like this fun children's film with like a cool, anime influence. And it's like all like fun and childish and lighthearted. And like, no, you know what kids are going to be all up in for? Like, fucking postmodern filmmaking. And fuck
Lucas, the pretentious film student energy does not end here. So, in a 2012 interview, Lana Wachowski said, and I quote, "The whole impetus for Speed Racer came out after the fact..." I'll try again, sorry, because I messed that up. So, in a 2012 interview, Lana said, "The whole impetus for Speed Racer came out of the fact that we were visually thinking people. We go to art galleries and art museums all the time. We go into the Art Institute of Chicago, and every room there are paintings that look completely and utterly different from other rooms. But in cinema, everything looks the same, and it's a really aggressive straitjacket aesthetically. We started talking about cubism, for instance, and we were talking about how you could make a cubist film. And we realised that you could try to make a cubist film for adults, you'll end up like Picasso, running from the angry mob when he first showed Guernica. They wanted to kill him. Literally, it's because the adults, they reject change, and an aesthetic change is too aggressive. a death for them. Every generation experiences aesthetic death. When you really assault an aesthetic, people freak out. But we said kids are okay with aesthetic change. And it's like, shut up and make the anime. It's based on a fucking anime from the 60s where people race and crash cars.
Like,
it's not that deep.
I understand what they're saying and how much,
I get it.
I get how much just awful homogeny it is within Hollywood, and like, yeah, people should be trying to get outside of that. But the like silly childhood anime adaptation is not the movie you're meant to do that with.
It's also as well just it really smacks off. Like, so that was in 2012. It really smacks off. People hated it, so we're going to come up with a wordy like reason why they actually just don't get it. It's like, would you when you like go into like you watch a film, it's like it's shit.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, no, actually, you just don't understand it. It's like, no, I've got a degree in breaking down media. I understand everything you've just said. It's still wank. Do you like the Flash movie where there was that guy saying, no, the CGI looks bad on purpose?
It's meant to be bad for a reason. It's like, was the reason that you had to rush the project out and fart it? Like,
do you know my favourite example of that? Like, and this is trick. People don't believe when I say it, but you can go look it up. When Bloodborne came out, because obviously it's a FromSoft game. You can't criticise a FromSoft game. So a lot of people were mentioning, like, this game, it looked visually fantastic. The setting, this, like, you know, gothic, like, Victorian London style setting. The combat is visceral, meaty, all those buzzwords people use. The loading, not so much. Maybe they can fix the loading. People were legitimately saying the loading being shit was an intentional design choice, so you had time to think about what went wrong. And it's like, just accept that they poorly optimized the game.
Yeah, it's so funny now because the biggest Bloodborne fans now in, you know, 2024 are begging for like some remaster of that game or just an update. Like, you know, for the longest time, it's like, we don't care. Don't make a remaster. Just give us an update to the game. Just make it 60 frames a second and load better. But back in the day, they couldn't take any criticism about FromSoft.
But as well, then they had to come up with these like wordy answers for like, well, no, you know, it's the reason the loading takes so you can sit there and think about what you did. It's like it's a commentary on the fact you want to rush through the world. It's like, no, they just poorly optimized it. Like, things can just like sometimes be bad because people weren't good at what they like. It could be bad because they rushed it, or they just made a mistake, or they didn't understand something. Things are sometimes just bad. And it really reads like that, of like, they're just salty that people give it bad reviews. You know what? It was just too ahead of its time. It's like, so why does it look worse than movies that came out 5 years prior?
That's what gets me about the Bloodborne one, is like, people gave it fucking incredible reviews. People love that game so hard, and they had one criticism, and the fanboys had to be, no, you just don't get it.
But, Lucas, are you ready to come back with some more film school nonsense? So, while planning out the film's pace and structure, the siblings embraced techniques of non-linear narrative, such as stream of consciousness storytelling, from modernist novels like Ulysses by James Joyce to Purple America by Rick Moody, seeking to play with conventions of cinematic language as those authors have done with prose. And it's like, shut up! Stop it!
The best part is, like, they got hired to just make a dumb kids film.
It's like, just make the kids movie and make it fun. They de-emphasise traditional cuts in favour of more fluid transitions, with the intention that scenes would feel, and this is a quote, like this experimental flowing thing that was transcending the normal, simple, linear narrative. And it's like, just make the movie.
Oh dear, it's like, go and do this with your own thing, fine.
The film's bright, colourful, smooth look, so they even acknowledged that it was smooth and had like no texture, is indebted to pop art, including paintings by Roy Lichtenstein and art photography by Andy Warhol, David LaChapelle and Jill Greenberg. Not the original anime. No, it's how they, like, it wasn't inspired. It's like, no, it's by pop art.
And I do wonder, just, you know, as a bit of a thought experiment, like, when people started, you know, quote unquote, reevaluating this movie and how old the people that are doing so are, because is it just that a lot of kids saw a bright thing when they were 6 and can't accept that it was bad?
I think it's, well, the Wachowskis have a very dedicated following, because
I think it's a bit of both.
It's similar to, like, they're the inverse, like, kind of like the flip side of the coin to, like, Zack Snyder, where it's like they similarly make movies that a lot of people assume are deep. And as someone, I literally have a degree in media and communications. Like, I spent literal like half a decade of my life learning how to break down and study film. And like all these concepts that they're mentioning. And I look at it and go, no, it's not. It's like, you just know these words, and you know that if people who don't understand these words hear you saying them, they're going to think it's smarter than it is. Like saying stuff like, it's inspired by like, postmodern, like it's inspired by modernist novels like Ulysses and stuff. It's like, no, it's not. It's like, you made a bad movie. So, we de-emphasize traditional cuts instead of like, the fluid transitions. So, which sounds really fancy, right? Do you know what that means? Just means you use like dissolves.
Yeah.
Do you know that thing you do in like, Premiere where you like drag the clip and it sticks together?
No.
That.
Do you know, that thing where you're in Premiere Pro and you press use default transition?
Yeah. But it's like, that's such a simple thing. And obviously you can use filmmaking techniques like that to say something. The language of cinema is, a thing that exists and you can use or unuse. Not unuse. I've broken my brain reading all this shit. Where you can you can use the cinematic language to tell a story, or you can deliberately subvert it in the same way. It just reads so much like we want to sound smarter than we are.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I say like part of this might be from like the learnings of like the Matrix fans having to argue about the Matrix for years and like whether the second and third film were good, and they weren't, spoilers, but like also is it just the Wachowskis learning like, well, if we tell them that like they just didn't get the ending of the Matrix, that we can kind of like bullshit our way around that being an awful ending.
My favourite thing about the Matrix is that the Wachowskis really, really don't like that fan theory that the end of the Matrix, Neo's still within another layer of it.
Like, do you mean the thing that almost fixes the trilogy? Yeah.
So people don't know the ending of the Matrix, where like Neo leaves the Matrix but still has his powers while he's outside of the Matrix. There is a very popular fan theory that is actually another layer to the Matrix. Like, it's the Matrix is just a sub-layer of a wider system that keeps people enslaved, which is hinted at both, like, kind of hinted at and also like outright stated when they talk about the construction of the Matrix, that it's multiple layers and that the Matrix is there's a whole bunch of like things that would suggest that that's the case. To the point where when we mentioned that in a previous Wiki Weekends, you assume that was the ending, right?
Yeah, I thought that like, the real world, quote unquote, is actually just another layer of the Matrix, and when they think they've won, that satiates all the humans, and then that means that the machines don't actually lose anything.
Yes, and I had to tell you that, no, that's a fan theory, but it's a fan theory that makes so much sense that basically a lot of people, myself included, assume that it's just the way it works. Because there's like things about the Matrix that don't make sense. For example, humans are batteries, which is not how that would work. Like, that makes literally no sense. Like it, and originally in the script, the Wachowskis again, they said, well, in the script originally it was supposed to be processing power. They were using human brains for processing power, but that was too complex for people to get. And it's like, is it that, or is it that someone pointed that out after the fact and that made more sense to you? And then you like took that on your own, but
just retconned it.
But they really, really hate that ending, and have on multiple occasions said, no, that's not what we intended. And I think it's legitimately because it's just smarter than what they come up with. And they just can't accept it.
The stretching that I've heard of excuses of like, well, why does Neo's powers work outside the Matrix? Then it's, well, actually, it's like almost like the Matrix is reaching back out into the real world to find Neo to give him the powers and all this. Or it was just another layer of the Matrix, and that makes way more fucking sense. And because the machines are like thought of contingency plans.
Yeah, and the whole point of the story is that Neo like realizes, like, it's like, that's why he's the one, because he realizes that the supposed real world is actually another layer, and it allows him to influence the real world, the real quote unquote world, the same way he does the Matrix, because he realizes it's all part of the same system, and they hate that. They hate it so much, and that's what makes it really funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got one more thing to cover here. Animal cruelty incident. Wait, what? During its production, animal rights group People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, made allegations of animal cruelty against the film, reporting that one of the two chimpanzees used in production was allegedly beaten with a stick after biting a child actor.
And I'm only smiling a little bit there
because it's just so weird. It's such a weird sentence, right?
No, it's because the one thing I didn't think would be linking the wikis this week were Peter having a problem with the thing.
Oh, okay.
So it just made me smile a little bit that that's like the link we've got this week.
The incident was later confirmed by the American Humane Association, the AHA, animal safety representatives on the set. So, people don't know, if you're making a movie with animals and you want to get that little thing at the end that says no animals were harmed, you have to have a representative from the American Humane Association on set wherever the animal is present, even if the animal is something like an insect or a fish.
Yes. They're animals.
The AHA representative stated that towards the end of filming, during a training session in the presence of the American Humane representative, the trainer, in an uncontrolled impulse, hit the chimpanzee. The AHA film unit referred to this abuse as completely inexcusable and unacceptable behaviour in the use of any animal.
Yeah, and the fact that it's like, oh, it was an uncontrolled impulse. It's like, does that mean you do it behind the scenes as well?
You just didn't want to be like... They also say that the film was on their unacceptable list, chiefly because of this incident and a separate incident where 5 piranhas died of unexplained causes.
Oh.
Yes.
It's very weird.
And Lucas, right, I'm not going to tell you about the critical response, but something that you notice when you cover like a lot of wikis, or you read a lot of them, is that you can tell when someone who's a fan of the thing edited the wiki or contributed to it, because critical response has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs.
Oh no.
Yes.
And it's like, the movie at the time received unfair response. It's like, oh no, it didn't.
And then but that's what it says. Yeah, you got it exactly right. But then there are 5 separate paragraphs talking about all the positive reviews and things that were good about it. So even though it opens with, on Rotten Tomatoes, the approval percentage is 42% based on 218 reviews with an average of 5.2 out of 10. The critics' consensus states, overloaded with headache-inducing special effects, Speed Racer finds the Wachowski focused on visual thrills at the expense of a coherent storyline. They just don't get it. It's actually non-linear storytelling. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 37 out of 100 based on 37 critic reviews, indicating a generally unfavourable response. However, audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an A- on an A+ to F scale. And then, like, every subsequent paragraph is like, a positive review. This character was secretly, it's like, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
These are the kind of people who convinced Karl and I to buy a copy.
And then got annoyed at us for saying it's bad. And it's like, you're not going to convince me. It's the same reason, like, when I say, like, the first Matrix movie is good if you, like, you know, look at it as a watershed moment for Hollywood and action films.
Yeah.
The film itself is not great, but what it accomplished and did for the industry is, like, you know, it's still felt to this day.
Yes.
And, like, you know, the production of it is more interesting than the film itself. But then when you mention that, people are like, no, The Matrix is good, it's like, oh, okay.
I think it's a very good movie, and I think, you know,
standalone,
a lot of it, obviously, as we mentioned, is just nowadays we found out is basically just ripped off from other shit, and it followed up with 2 awful sequels. Well, 3 awful sequels, in fact.
I still love as well when people say, well, the Animatrix is good, and they credit that to the Wachowskis. It's like, no, they had broad overviews and storylines. It was all handled by, like, outside studios, including, I think, Studio Trigger, who did one of the best. Like, it's just, yeah, that's what the Matrix should be. The Matrix should be like Star Wars, where it's a universe that someone made. Let's let people who are more competent than George Lucas make stories within it. Exactly,
yeah. It's similar to, like, oh, The Matrix Online was fun. It's like, yeah, but the Wachowskis had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So they produced. So I've just double checked now. It was directed by Andy Jones, Mahiro Maeda, Shinichiro Watanabe, Yoshikaka Kawajiri, Takeshi Koki, Koji Morimoto, Peter Chung. It was written by the Wachowskis and produced by them, but it was also written by Mahiro Maeda, Shinichiro Watanabe, Yoshiaki Kawajiri. Basically, they wrote one story in it and then produced the rest, and the rest is just handled by anime studios who just made it way better.
I presume that's one of those, like, ensemble movies where each got, like,
different vignettes,
you know, different vignettes of, like, 10 minutes of different anime styles making one big contingent movie. Yeah.
But people always credit it to the Wachowskis. It's like, no, the majority of it was made by outside anime studios who just ignored everything the Wachowskis said. But yeah, that's Speed Racer. Just never speak of it again.
It's like, I guess let us know how wrong we are in the comments again.
You
but,
will never convince me.
No. Last thing, it's not that you're trying to convince Karl or I to watch the movie. We both watched it in very good quality.
I watched it in the best quality it is available to be viewed in.
And no, you can't convince us.
And well, a lot of it boils, people just say you don't get it as well. Like I've had people say you don't get it. It was trying to the reason it's so colourful and everything jumps around the screen is because it was based on the anime. And it's like we've just read interviews and quotes from the Wachowskis. No, it's not. They didn't mention the anime it's based on at all. It's like the story structure is really bad and awkward. Oh, but it's like an anime. It's like, no, they based it on fucking books.
They wanted to, reverse tropes of Hollywood, not base it off an anime.
Yeah. It's not a direct adaptation. In fact, at no point in the thing do they ever mention the original Speed Racer at all.
Mm-hmm.
The source material was immaterial to what they were producing. They just wanted to, fuck up the Hollywood system, which, I can respect that in a way. That's the thing. I respect the Wachowskis as filmmakers in some ways. Their thing of, we're just going to make what we want. I can respect that.
Just don't use, an existent IP that people have love and care for.
Well, that's when they made Jupiter Ascending. They have a really great concept in Jupiter Ascending. Well, I think Jupiter Ascending, if I'm remembering correctly, they talk about how in the universe, almost every resource is infinite. Or there's, so much of it, you will never be, you'll never be able to use it all. There's only one resource that people cannot get more of, and that's time. That is a fascinating concept for a sci-fi movie, but the movie sucks. The concept is great, and I would love to see it explored more. The way they handled it sucked.
I thought you were going to say
that. Good idea in there.
I thought you were going to say the only thing left is unobtainium.
But I just, it's an interesting sci-fi. The concept of the Matrix is a fascinating concept.
Yeah.
And
just most of their movies are lacking in the execution half of the exercise. And
a lot of the stuff that ends up, people always single out as looking good. The action's really good. It's they didn't direct the action. Yuen Wu-Ping did.
I thought you were going to say of Speed Racer was it just doesn't look good, though. That's the thing.
And that's why the action in, the Matrix Resurrections... Again, I saw people saying, well, that's a deliberate thing. It's to show how watered down Hollywood's become since then. It's just say it looks bad! So the action's bad on purpose because it's supposed to be a commentary on the dialogue. Or maybe it's because they didn't have the guy who directed the action in Kill Bill on set.
Here's a hint. Most things that are bad are just bad. They're not intentionally bad. Especially when budgets come down to hundreds of millions of dollars and they're looking for an actual return on that shit.
Maybe it was just incompetence.
Yeah.
But yes, that's... I just had to clarify that at the end. I respect them as filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
And there's got some good ideas in there, but it's just that thing of I cannot stand when someone tells me you just don't get it.
Yeah,
I hate that. It's I do. I do.
Anyway,
it's
Karl,
still bad.
Can we take a quick break so
we can
move on swiftly from the speed?
The speed, ironically enough. Well, no, we don't move on swift. What we do is we jump in the air and then spin around, really shiny, and then our car goes sideways.
And then we vaguely bounce over an image that looks vaguely like a track and kind of follow its path. Okay, got it. Anyway, let's take a break.
So we've returned from our bathroom and coffee breaks, Lucas, and before we move on to your wiki, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. And I'd like to start by saying, on the 2nd of February, so in 3 weeks' time,
that looks like about 2 weeks' time.
It will be my birthday, and I've been taking a break from streaming because I'm doing dry January, as mentioned in the previous podcast, and I will be returning to streaming. It's my birthday. You can't have a drink on your birthday, and I will be playing through what game, Lucas?
maybe thinking it might be Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
Yes, I'm going to be playing through that as usual, but because it's my birthday, it's going to be my birthday stream. So if you'd like to wish me a happy birthday and support me, just mark that date in your calendars.
And I normally do a birthday stream, and my birthday will be this week, but I'm actually have time off to go and do something as a surprise for my birthday. I'm not sure what it is, but I actually won't be doing a birthday stream this year, but you can find me streaming currently Mass Effect Mondays, Tunic Tuesdays, which is Zelda games, and then Thunder Badge Thursdays, which is Pokemon games. Mm-hmm. And that is just my usual rotation every week at the moment. And you can find that at twitch.tv/Legend of Kanto.
Oh yeah, mine's twitch.tv/Karlswood.
There we go.
Didn't even mention that. You don't want to do a stream into your birthday? It'll be the Sunday this week, right? It's 21st.
Yes, yeah.
So you don't want to do one on Saturday leading into your birthday, or are you taking the full weekend off?
I'm kind of busy over the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday doing different things with different people and stuff. So yeah. So
I was debating doing the thing I used to do of a Smash stream of getting Smash, playing Smash, but I know I'm seeing you the week before anyway.
Yeah, you'll be seeing me a few days before for definitely will be somewhere at a Pokemon event. So if you can find us at a Pokemon event, we will be there.
Yes. But I thought, I'll just... it's a Friday. I'm, going out for my birthday with my parents, for a meal in the week. I'm going out on the weekend to see friends. Friday's kind of those days where, as I've gotten older, it's less and less about actually doing anything. It's more just take the day to decompress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, see some family and friends and relax and,
and then
just
play Metal Gear Revengeance.
Be chill. And, speaking of the event that we are going to, Karl...
So you mentioned
left
Peter.
A couple of hints.
You mentioned Peter. It's Pokemon, right? Because Peter hates Pokemon.
Yes, they have notoriously over the years had many campaigns against Pokemon because it essentially promotes dog fighting in Peter's eyes.
Yeah, because here's the thing about Peter they've got a really slick marketing department, and when you think animal rights charities, your mind goes to Peter, and they've got so many celebrities because it's ostensibly a very, very good cause of, do you give a shit about animals? Yes. Would you like them to not be mistreated? Also, yes. The problem is Peter is fucking weird. Like you said, they don't like Pokemon because it promotes dog fighting. They don't like people having pets, full stop. People in Peter don't like you having a dog. So it's not and I don't mean having a dog that's not spayed and neutered and well looked after. They just don't like people having dogs. And then you have those statistics of they had their own Peter branded, what's it now, dog pound that had a 98% kill rate. And there are stories of people having their dogs taken to one and killed that afternoon.
It's just one of those weird things of on the face of it, it sounds like a good operation, but the moment you delve into it, it's this is some real fucked up radical shit.
But also as well, that's what the one all the celebrities go for. You had that famous one of we think it looks better on the animal, where they had a bunch of super hot actresses wear nothing at all to speak out against fur. And just in this one, if you want to support an animal charity, the American Humane Association. There's a reason why Hollywood works with them and not Peter.
Yeah, and it's one of those
support the American Humane Association if you're in America, or the RSPCA in the UK.
I just want to clarify, when I say radical, I mean radicalist, not radical as in radical dude that 90s, oh, this is great. It's no, it's not. But anyway.
Very, very extreme views. Like I said, they hate Pokemon, it promotes dog fighting. No, it doesn't.
And speaking, of Pokemon, I am talking about Pokemon today. And the thing that I specifically want to bring up is the idea of mythical Pokemon, because one just got introduced into the new game.
I don't go. I mean, not about your entry, but mythical. Yeah. I could not give less of a fuck about whatever the latest mythical / legendary / stupid overpowered piece of shit they've introduced to Pokemon is.
That thing is, the reason I care is because I'm trying to have a living dex throughout every single game entry. So I want to get it for collection purposes to sit in Pokemon Home and never be utilized.
Just send it to Pokemon Purgatory, yes.
And it's one of those things of mythical Pokemon, for anyone that don't understand, there's like
there's a hierarchy,
levels.
yes.
There's like a hierarchy of Pokemon. Yeah, there's like general Pokemon, which is you know
your
everything.
Pikachus,
Your Pikachu,
Geodude.
your Eevee, like your starter Pokemon, your regular Pokemon, all of them are like they're all like mascot Pokemon and first partner Pokemon, which is what many people know as starter Pokemon, but they all classify as just Pokemon.
Yeah.
And then there are legendary Pokemon.
That's
So, for example,
Articuno.
in the
It's usually
first game,
it's usually the trios, right?
a lot of the Pokemon, so it's basically any of the like legendary Pokemon where you have a setting count where you can like catch like one maybe per game. I think there are some occasions where it's not just one, but you generally it's like you catch one. It's like the Pokemon on the front of the box. That's always like a legendary Pokemon in the later games. Anything like the Zapdos, Articuno, the Moltres, the Mewtwo, they are legendary Pokemon because they are obtainable through regular playthrough in your regular gameplay.
Yes.
And mythical Pokemon
a step beyond
that because they are essentially legendary Pokemon, yes, but they are Pokemon that are generally like exclusive to events.
So they're given their own status of like they're so legendary that you can't even get them in the game. They do not exist within the game's code.
Yeah, exactly. And well, they're in the code, but they're hidden away.
But they do not exist within regular. You cannot obtain them through regular gameplay. You have to do something outside of the game usually to get them.
Aside from like glitches in the first gen to get Mew and stuff like that, like generally to get Mew you had to go to an event to get gifted Mew. You could glitch it, but you couldn't get a legitimate Mew through regular gameplay.
The idea of a legit Mew.
Like that's the thing is, I wonder. Like I presume it's just like people had little cheat cartridges and stuff back in the day. The amount of kids on the playground back in the day where it's like, no, my uncle went to Japan and took my Game Boy and got me a real Mew.
No, we just cheated for it. Fuck it.
Did they?
I'm like, fuck you, give me it. It still sucked anyway. Mewtwo was still better.
Yeah, that's the thing is just Mewtwo was still a much more broken Pokemon in battle anyway.
Yeah, like Mew's not even like in the top. Like when you go look at the tier list for like the first Pokemon, like Tauros is better than Mew because Tauros had like ridiculous speed, special, and attack and HP, and could learn like almost every. It doesn't matter that Mew can learn every move when Tauros can learn Blizzard. But
similar to Mew, a lot of these mythical Pokemon also get like movies that they star in or at least cameo in as like mythical Pokemon. And mythical Pokemon or event exclusive Pokemon, less commonly known as Mirage Pokemon.
That's a cool name. It's like something that you thought you saw. That's a good name for it. Like it's something that you're not quite sure if it exists.
It's like, wait, I saw this guy with like a Pokemon that I've never seen before. And like, it doesn't exist. It's not a Pokemon that you can get in the game. It's like, but I saw somebody else with it.
Every now and again, you got to go look up that forum thread on people who insist that they saw a Digimon.
Oh god!
But I saw it, Lucas. It was there.
They are a special group of Pokemon that are rarely seen by anyone in the world of Pokemon.
Giving them day one.
Yeah,
it's like it's so they're so mythical, except for Zeraora, which they gave you a shiny one of,
which makes it even less special.
And that's the we can get to.
We can get to that, yes. Some are so rarely seen that people are unsure if they really exist, and obviously this isn't like the Pokemon world.
In the world, yeah. In our world, it's like it's on the box.
Yeah. It's not even on the box. It's like, oh, do you want to just like enter a mystery gift code to get like your mythical?
Yeah.
That spurred scientists to do research. Mythical Pokemon were once considered part of legendary Pokemon outside of the Japanese media until Generation 5.
Is that when they started putting all like the weird bullshit in you had to do to get those rare Pokemon?
Not really, no.
Like Victini and stuff?
No, because like I think Victini again was just an event.
There you go.
And yet, mythical Pokemon are rarely obtainable through non-event methods. For a comprehensive list of such instances, check out the trivia section of this page, which we will do.
It still cracks me at least like give them out with McDonald's, because that's such a genius idea of like giving you a code with like a Happy Meal for a rare Pokemon.
Well, look at what happened, the last couple of times where just booster packs of like you get 3 cards if you go get a Happy Meal at McDonald's, and like adults were going in like, give me 50 Happy Meals.
Gangbusters, let's go.
Oh, but yeah, it all obviously kicked off Generation 1 with Mew, known as the ancestor of all Pokemon, and it is considered to be the rarest Pokemon of all, which is fucking hilarious when it's like,
We've got
hey,
4, right?
If you buy like the
Happy Meal,
well, it wasn't even that. It was like, which game was it that came out? And it was like, oh, well, if you buy, I think it might have been Pokemon Let's Go with the additional Pokeball that costs like $50, we'll also have a Mew inside of the Pokeball to transfer. It's like,
do you think like FIFA and stuff ever like just look at Pokemon and go, why do you get away with this? Why do people give us shit for like charging people? Like, you release 2 games that are like, people make fun of FIFA. They're like, oh, it's just the same game. And it's like, well, it's not, because they completely overhaul like the rosters and stuff, which is like literally thousands of players, whatever.
Like, it admittedly could be an update to FIFA, yeah.
But they say, they'll say like, they look over at like Nintendo and Game Freak, they literally release the same game.
They release the same game
colour.
And take out content from the game to split it up into 2 versions and go like, look, games.
And then like Warner Bros must look at them like they're getting criticised, like, oh, you're making like Shang Tsung. He's not like, you got to pre-order the game to get Shang Tsung, and Pokemon's like, you have to buy a $50 accessory to get Mew.
Yeah. Oh god. And
all the companies must like hate Pokemon.
Just the fact alone that they get away with selling 2 copies of every iteration of a game.
Just the things as well, like, when people are making fun of like games for looking bad. And it's like, the game looks fine, and then Pokemon comes out and people defend it.
Yeah.
Well, it's Pokemon, what do you expect? It's like, it's the single most valuable piece of intellectual property on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm. And they couldn't even fucking give us textures on the rocks. It's like, but it's the Switch, it's not very powerful, and then I load up like Tears of the Kingdom, and it's like, it looks 3 times better, and it's got 3 times the draw distance in the open world as well. I'm like,
it's insane.
What's your excuse?
And I guess it's because they did it first. It's that simple. They did it first. They had the balls to do it first. If they tried to do it now, people are like, no, fuck off. Also, it gets grandfathered in.
They did it to us as kids.
Yep. And you have a nostalgia for it. And as we talked about multiple times, like the quote we always say is, it's like when people defend something, it's like, is it that it's good, or is it that you watched it when you were 15?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that old thing, we always say that, don't we? It's like, it's not good, it's just you were 14, 15.
Yeah. It's like, is Pokemon the greatest gaming franchise of all time? Or is it a bunch of like okay to very good games, depending on what part of Pokemon you're talking about? Is like, it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's never been like a 10 out of 10 series, but it's a series which just bombards you with a bunch of cute creatures and gives you plushes and anime and stuff, and it's like, yeah.
It's like, again, there's the other quote about music, isn't it? Like, it's very strange how everyone always seems to think that the best music is just coincidentally the music they listened to when they were 14. Everyone always says like music sucks now. It was better when I was younger. It's like, you mean when you were a teenager forming a personality? Exactly,
like your literal formative years.
Yeah, that's why they call them that. And it's, if you look back and you think like a lot of the media you consume during those formative years ends up being the media that you like as an adult, or it informs the decisions you make as an adult in regards to your media choices. And
just getting back to the mythical Pokemon. It's like, it's one of those of I do fall into that category a little bit, because like, to me, I'm like, well, Mew was a really cool idea of like, there's 2 versions of this game, but in neither version you can get this one Pokemon. It's like,
looking back as an adult, though, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah, it is 100% fuck you. And the anecdote that people might talk about is like, if we don't mention it, is just that, originally Mew wasn't planned, and it was apparently one rogue developer that like threw in Mew at the end of development without really like getting approval properly.
Which happens a lot in Pokemon. But you think about like, do people complain about shit being like, it's on the disc but you can't access it?
Mm-hmm.
Pokemon invented that, basically. They're putting shit on the cartridge that's in the game. It works, it functions, but you're not allowed to access it.
Fuck you, go to Japan and go get one.
Yeah. And again, like, they get away with it because they've done it for that long. They got grandfathered in. But I guarantee, like, like Call of Duty comes out. People are like, oh, all these skins are already in the game. And you're like piecemealing them out to us. It's like, Pokemon do it. All these Pokemon are in the game.
But fair play to Mew, because Mew was like essentially credited as part of the reason that Pokemon got popular, right?
Yeah, it's like it contributed to the popularity. It's that the schoolyard rumor. Like everyone in the comments could probably tell us about what was the Pokemon rumor in your school. There was like, I remember people telling me, did you know there's a secret extra HM called Jump that lets you jump over into Bill's garden? There's a Mew in his garden.
Oh, obviously, like the one that I heard that was, I guess, the most famous one of all is like the like the Mew is under the truck, and if you use like cut on the truck or strength on the truck or something
to push the truck aside,
to push the truck aside, that was it.
Which I did try as a kid. It's like you intentionally die on the SSN, and then you can access it after it leaves.
Yeah,
with
and
surf.
It's like, it's one of those things of if you work your way to get to that area of the game, which is not normally accessible, new strength on the truck, it's like it still doesn't work, nothing happens, but there is that very repeatable glitch to guarantee yourself a Mew where it's like there's like 2 trainers in the game where you can like soft lock yourself into like encountering them as you press pause and then fly away and then do all this other shit and actually encounter Mew in the game with a glitch. But
which some of it felt intentional, and then like the more you learn about it as you get older, it's like Pokemon was just held together with duct tape and hope.
Like especially Generation 1
Generation 1 is nightmarish.
A complete mess of accidents, and it's a magical wonder that it managed to get like the franchise to where it is now.
Just stuff like like focus energy in game tells you it doubles your critical hit chance. In the code, it makes your critical hit chance 0. It's like it literally did the exact opposite of what it said.
And like I think it's in Generation 2, but it may be further on than that, where the apricot balls they have like certain things like the Moonstone, for example, is like, oh well, it helps your chance at like getting any Pokemon that can evolve with a Moonstone. It actually doesn't do that, it just works like a regular Pokeball, and it's like there's another one where it's like, oh, it's meant to be like any Pokemon that can be evolved with like other stones or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And then in fact what it does is like any Pokemon that can be evolved using a burn heal, which is 0 Pokemon. So it never helps your chance of catching any Pokemon. And the just hopes and dreams were those games made by. But at least like Mew did like very much attribute towards the popularity of the entire franchise, and then like the first Pokemon movie starred Mew and Mewtwo, and I do have that affinity for them in the sense of like, oh, but Mew's like this cute little adorable cat-like creature that floats around, and again, I was a kid, so therefore it's my favourite mythical.
Again, that's the thing. It's like it's very fun to look back on though with the modern lens of how much people fucking hate this thing. Like this stuff that they do with gaming, of like piecemealing out content for me, hiding stuff behind discs, releasing like special editions that have stuff in that like is already on the disc that you're not allowed to access, and like Pokemon did it all. It basically invented it, and it gets away with it because it did it first.
And then, obviously, from then on out, we've had mythical Pokemon in every single generation.
Because it sells gangbusters. People love getting Pokemon.
It's like in Generation 2, we had the Pokemon Celebi. Shout out to, the website Cerebi, which is named after the Japanese version of the name Cerebi. And it's just one of those of like, oh, this is like another version of Mew, essentially, which a lot of the earlier ones were, where it's like, oh, here's like a grass sprite version of Mew that's like in Ilex Forest or whatever it is. And even the anime had like a part where it was assumed that like that golden GS ball in the anime that Ash got was going to contain the Celebi.
It just never comes back, right? It's like one of those things they just dropped it and it never comes back in the anime.
I think the storyline just gets forgotten about halfway through,
It's like Misty's bike or like Ash's 30 Tauros. It never comes up again.
But it was like a pivotal part of it. We're going to travel and go see like the professor and ask like, what's this ball about? And we're going to figure it out and
they just
take
never
it
comes
to
up
Kurt
again.
And he's going to figure it out. And then we're left with it and then nothing happens.
There's just be an episode where Ash just finds it in his luggage. And he's like, oh.
Yeah, and it let me click on GS Ball here, because it does say it is also known to be the mysterious Pokemon hidden inside the mysterious GS Ball.
Maybe that come out, maybe it was a movie. It might have been a movie that, obviously, because we didn't watch that movie.
Oh, okay, right. According to Masamitsu Hidaka, the GS Ball stood for Gold Silver Ball, because it came out in the Gold Silver games, and was supposed to contain Celebi. It was intended to follow Ash Ketchum around in the Gold Silver series. However, it was decided at the last minute to save Celebi for the movie Pokemon Forever, and the GS Ball was dropped from the anime with no explanation.
Do you know what the thing is? What I love about Pokemon? I don't like, it's just something that came up because I've not watched much of the recent anime. I've heard Pokemon Concierge is quite good, but I was talking to
adorable, yeah.
Talked to a mutual friend of ours where he mentioned there's a moment in the anime that caused a huge kerfuffle online, and it's where Ash just rocks up to one of the leagues and another trainer just has like a Latios or something. Another trainer has a legendary. Mm-hmm. And apparently fans online were really mad at that. And I'm like, why would they be mad at that? And I'm like, because Ash didn't have it. Mm-hmm. They were all asking, well, why does this random dumbass have a legendary Pokemon? That's actually really awesome and makes just the idea that someone else went out and caught one that wasn't Ash. And then they bring it to the league. Ash is like, the fuck am I supposed to do about this legendary?
And I saw it was like more recently. I think there's a character in the anime called like Go or something like that, and he just like casually catches a Suicune in front of Ash.
That might be
and people were like, "What the fuck? He just like caught a Suicune out of nowhere. Like, what the fuck?"
But people are mad that Ash didn't get it, and it's like when I heard that, I thought, "Oh, they must love that then." 'Cause to me, that sounds awesome. That just other people in the world randomly caught a legendary, and now what do you do about someone who just has a legendary and brings it to a tournament? Mm-hmm. And people were mad that Ash didn't have it, and it's like, fuck,
of course.
The one interesting thing that I've heard about in Pokemon, and Pokemon fans hated it. It's like, no, that's so interesting. The idea that just someone has one.
The idea that Ash isn't the protagonist of life, and if anything, that's what the anime almost always was, because like, if it was another anime, Ash would have won every fucking tournament he went to.
Yeah.
And, like, not every anime, of course, but, like, if you were going to go with, like, the cartoonish kids-like anime where it's just, like, it's meant for small children, it's like, Ash wins every time and he's the best. But no, like, Pokemon turned that trope on its head and went, like, no, Ash got beat in the quarterfinals because he's been a trainer for 2 months.
Yeah, I loved it. And when I saw the clip, I was like, that's amazing. And then just to find out that everybody hated that moment because Ash didn't get one, it's like, do you watch the show? Do you not realise the whole point is that Ash is constantly struggling against greater odds? And what greater odds can you get then? This person's got a legendary.
And like, I'm so glad that eventually we got the payoff of Ash becoming champion. But like, the fact that they managed to like actually hold that off for like 20 years is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And it gave us a satisfying ending to his arc and like actually set up a new protagonist, which like, fair play to that anime for doing many of those things correctly, because that's how you fucking do it. Mm-hmm. It's like, you give us a 20-year build-up, you give us the payoff, and then you actually end Ash's story and give us a new start.
Yep. And as well, as soon as he did it, his story's done. Mm-hmm. As soon as it did, that's what he was going for.
And it even gave us, like, those few episodes of Ash returning to all his old, like, locations of partner Pokemon and stuff, and, like, going and seeing, like, the Squirtle Squad performing and all this, and just giving us those nostalgia bites. They did it so well.
Goes and meets his Charizard again. Mm-hmm. Says hello to his 30 Tauros.
He's like, I don't even remember catching these.
Well, he's not allowed. It was who did it in that episode with a gun, so he's not allowed.
Oh god. And then moving on to Generation 3, we've got Jirachi. Again,
these Pokemon suck. I hate them so much.
It's Jirachi is filling that niche of the first few generations did of like, here's this slightly altered Mew of like, here's the little sprite Pokemon.
It's also as well, it's like, it's that classic anime trope of like, the small cutesy thing is actually super deadly, which is fine with Mew of like, but then they did it like 15 times.
Do you know what super deadly, Karl, isn't the little cutesy one?
What's that?
It's fucking Deoxys. Just the asteroid from space.
Oh, God.
And it's like...
People can't... Me and Lucas, we really don't like Legendary or like these...
I think it's a very interesting discussion to have in terms of like how much I don't care, but the franchise does.
It's because I think we feel the same way of... You can't call something legendary and make 50 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, I think it was like if you actually count how many legendary Pokemon there is nearly 100 legendary / mythical Pokemon, and the game keeps giving you them. Like,
that's the thing.
They just give them away. They're not legendary anymore.
Yeah, especially when like I had a bit of a discussion online not long ago with people of like, well, I'm getting really annoyed because the new selling point for like the Indigo disc when it came out was like, oh hey, bunch of these legendary Pokemon are going to be able to get caught. I was like, this is like the 5th game in a row that's been the selling point. It's like,
it's not the story. It's not the characters. It's like you will get new legendary Pokemon that are better than the ones you've already got.
And I understand the argument of like people arguing with me, yeah, but not everyone has played every game like you have. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Like, yeah, I get it. But like, as a long-time fan, when it's like Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, the Crown Tundra DLC or whatever it was, like that's the Indigo Disc DLC is like, all of them are like, guess what, Pokemon fans? Go and collect all the old legendaries again. I'm like, I've got boxes full of them on Pokemon Home. I'm trading them for fucking Swaddle that isn't available in the game. Like,
here's one as well. Do you know what I mentioned earlier of like Pokemon gets away with doing stuff no other company would? Like Pokemon as well, they straight up do DLC that just has something like stronger than everything in the base game. Do you know people complain like, the new DLC gun in like, you play Destiny. There's a new like, gun come out in the new DLC. It's the most broken shit in the game. People complain and complain and complain until it gets fixed. I play Mortal Kombat. New character comes out. This character's broken. Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it. Pokemon gets away with like, oh, we've got a new DLC. We've got a new legendary. It has like the highest stats of anything and a unique ability that makes it completely broken as fuck. And they never fix it.
And bear in mind
they get away with that. Pokemon is the only company that gets away with doing it. Like,
not only do they do that, they sell you quality of life in the DLC.
Yeah, that's the thing. And they get away with it. No other company gets away with like releasing busted DLC. They do it, but then they almost always have to tune it down. So you think of any Pokemon that they've done that with tuned it down within the same game?
Not within the same game, for sure. Like, Urshifu's still pretty broken in the new game, and he's the DLC one from the last game.
Yeah, but then there's new Pokemon that are introduced in the new DLC that are better than that. And it's like, they get away with it. They release things that are numerically, on paper, better than everything you gain access to in the base game. And no other company gets away with doing that. It's kind of insane.
It's like in the new DLC, for example, when I'm talking about quality of life, like one of the things is like the Terra Shards that are really hard to get.
You just give you 50.
You do a raid and you might be lucky to get, like 5 Terra Shards, and then like I'm walking along the ground and picking up 5 items off the floor in 10 seconds, and one of those items might be like, oh, here's 20 Terra Shards.
And just for everyone who wants a Terra Shard, it's the new gimmick in the game. You need at least, is it 20?
50. 30?
You need at least 50 to change your Pokemon's Terra type. And like as Luke said, in base game, you can pick up like 2 or 3 every now and again. So you need to pick up like
But you do like entire like difficult raids to get like maybe 5.
Yeah, which take like 5-6 minutes. You just found 50 lying on the ground.
Yeah, just bundles of like 10 to 20 of them just everywhere.
Never forget that Pokemon in one game. The ability to change sound was an item you could pick up and miss.
Yeah, missable like sound settings were like a pair of headphones that you could find by talking to a random NPC on the street. With like, no way to know that was an item that you could get. Like the sound settings, and it was multiple hours into the game.
I think only Pokemon gets away with this. And no other game gets away with this sort of thing.
No, not at all. And like, the item which is like the fresh start mochi in the DLC, which is only available from the DLC's minigame, where it's like, oh, you can reset all your Pokemon's effort values back to 0, which
Lucas.
To get berries to do that in the game, you have to like go to auctions and spend inordinate amounts of money when the right item comes up on the auction. It's like,
Lucas,
instead just go do the minigame.
Pokemon Black and White had easy and hard mode. that you had to complete the game and delete your save to use.
And you had to, like, I think it was like if you got black, you unlock the hard mode, and if you wanted hard mode on white, you had to do like a key trade with Pokemon Black with someone who'd got unlocked the hard mode.
So easy mode and hard mode have only ever been in one Pokemon game. That's Pokemon Black and White. And to unlock hard mode, you need to complete Black, and to unlock easy mode, you had to unlock it in White, and then to get them on the easy or hard mode from the other version, you had to have either a friend with that version of the game who completed it, and then to play easy mode. So that's another thing as well. Multiple saves. Can you think of any other game where, if you want to start a new game, you have to just delete your old one? Like, if I want to play like a new Baldur's Gate run, I can play it. It doesn't make me delete my previous 5 runs. Pokemon, again, they get away with that.
Even on the Switch, it's like, instead of having multiple saves, you have to have multiple profiles on your Switch. Like, your one profile can only have one save file.
On Pokemon.
And you can't even have cloud saves because they're afraid of people, like, doing scummy shit with it. Like, you know, manipulating Pokemon data and stuff. So, like,
only Pokemon
no cloud saves available on Pokemon because fuck you.
And here's the thing as well, and we have an example of another company actually trying that. Because do you remember, like, Mercenaries for the 3DS? There was a Mercenaries game.
The Resident Evil Mercenaries game.
Yes, which had a persistent single save. So in the 3DS version of the Mercenaries game, like the Resident Evil mini game, they spun off into its own thing. It had a single persistent save state that once you'd unlock something, you could never reset the game. And Capcom toyed with this idea and then immediately walked it back. And that's admittedly a little bit more extreme than Pokemon, because Pokemon you can reset your save. Mm-hmm. But the fact that Capcom tried it in one game as a spin-off on a console they didn't historically put a lot of big first-party games onto.
But to be fair, they supported the 3DS quite well. But it was one of those games where it was they knew it wasn't going to be an overly big game or anything. So they didn't market it massively. Let's try out some weird shit on this one and see what we can get away with.
Let's test the waters with this. And the backlash was so heavy, the entire industry backed off that concept. And on the same console, Pokemon's like, do you want to start a new game? Delete your old save. Delete it.
And we've got a bit long in the tooth here with this one, so I'm gonna.
I could talk about Pokemon all day.
We could rant about bad practices in Pokemon all day long, but
it's fascinating to think about.
It is, yeah, and I should say the leeway that we give Pokemon over the franchises, and I think that is starting to turn slowly. That ship is starting to reverse, but it is one of those. It's fucking stuck in the Suez Canal halfway.
It's that thing of the ship has set sail. But if I really want it, it could still turn around and come get me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to swim out to the ship. But if the ship wants to come back, I'll get on.
Or if I just tell you, Karl, I'm training up a few new Pokemon, you're like, oh.
Fuck. God, no.
But yeah, I'll swiftly go through all of the rest of the quote-unquote mythical Pokemon.
Let's see how many of these I actually know.
If you shout out any of them, that you want to specifically talk about, which I doubt will be many, but we'll start with the rest of them at Generation 4, which is the duo of Manaphy and Fione.
I can't stand them. They all look exactly the same.
So Manaphy is the one that you actually get, and then you've got to breed Manaphy with Ditto to get the Fione. But you can't then evolve a Fione into a Manaphy, because, of course, Manaphy has to stay special. You can't, mass-produce them.
That's the part of the Water Trio, right?
No. That's the Sea Drifter or Seafaring Pokemon, Fiona, Manaphy, and Respect. But they're just the blue Mews.
Yeah.
Then you got Darkrai, Shaman, Arceus, of course, the god of Pokemon.
They felt like Shaman, and it wasn't part of that trio of horses.
No, that was Keldeo, the one you're thinking of, maybe.
My Little Pony.
Where it was the fourth one, but. Generation 5, you've got Victini, Keldeo, Meloetta, and Genesect.
It's so weird as well, the jump you go from Victini of tiny Starbear to Genesect, and it's just a fucking Godzilla monster.
And that's kind of that's why I do kind of like all of the, as I keep saying, the ones that look like sprites, as in the creature sprites, not as in sprites the 2D pixel sprites.
My main issue is they're just too strong.
Is they're all just cutesy little monsters, whereas I hate the ones that are Genesect that look like they might as well be a fucking Digimon over there.
The problem with me is they're too strong, So they make them, obviously, make them overpowered because we want people to want it. They're too strong, so they're not fun to use in battle because it doesn't feel competitive. And they also almost always have a unique move that's super powerful and has literally no downside.
And that's
so they
what
have
I really
one
liked
set way
about
of being played.
I liked it when it was Mew, because Mew was the ancestor of Pokemon.
It could learn every move.
So the gimmick was just it could learn any move.
Which at least makes it interesting from a competitive standpoint, because you don't know what Mew's going to do. Victini, it's like he's going to use fucking, what is it, Victory Flare or whatever it is. That's like just base 130 damage fire moves. Like, why would I not use the most powerful move?
It doesn't specifically mention its moveset here, but yeah, it was something along those lines of like just use its signature move over and over again.
And its signature move is like almost always like just numerically better than whatever the most powerful move. Like,
it's always like, oh, here's an elemental hyper beam with no downsides or some shit like that.
Which means that it just, again, from a competitive standpoint, not only does it not feel fair to use, it feels very limited in what its applications are. Because, like, why would you not just spam the best move it has?
You know, going back to Darkrai, it would give you, like, the Dark Void of, like,
just double sleep.
Here's a doubles move that can put both Pokemon to sleep at the same time, and they've had to, like, nerf it over time and make sure that Smeargle can't use it because it was just ridiculous.
That move was so powerful, they had to they basically washed the Pokemon. And again, it's like, you know, it's sleeping Pokemon, if you don't play competitive, is an incredibly powerful technique. So powerful, in fact, there is one move in the game that has a 100% guarantee of doing sleep, and they give it to like 4 Pokemon. They know how strong it is.
So fucking good. And then they were like, what about like 70% accuracy of hitting both of them? I think that's what it started as, and now it's like 40% because they had to nerf the shit out of it. But
because they realize it's so powerful to be able to put both your opponents. Because basically, you just win that turn. Because your opponent, they have at least 2 turns where they can't wake that Pokemon up. So you effectively like neuter their entire offense for 2 turns, unless they switch out their Pokemon, and then they've still got 2 Pokemon in the back that are asleep. So you effectively cut their team in half in 1 turn with 1 move. And they gave that to a Pokemon that you had to go to a fucking McDonald's to get.
Or, you know, it could just shut down both Pokemon for like maybe 3 or 5 turns, I think it is. Both Pokemon could just ostensibly be dead by the time that you're done with them from one Dark Void.
And it has 0 downsides. That's the problem.
Apart from bad accuracy, but it could just hit both Pokemon and send both Pokemon to sleep and you ostensibly win.
It just really, it feels really unfair to do and to play against. It completely neuters any like creativity.
Like, as I mentioned, they had to stop it working with Smeargle because Smeargle was like a regular Pokemon that could just go in and use Dark Void and not be a mythical banned Pokemon or whatever. So it was like, okay, well, this has got to be stopped because that move's too fucking good.
Yeah, the move's so good that if you put it on a Pokemon that can actually learn more than 7 moves, it's completely broken.
And moving on to Gen 6 here, we've got Deancey, Hooper, and Volcanion.
Nothing to say about any of them. They all look terrible.
Yeah, Gen 7, and we've got Magearna, Marshadow, Zorora, of course, which you all got like a free shiny version of, and then Meltan and Melmetal.
The fact that Zeraora is a mythical Pokemon, and they give you a free version of it that's shiny, making the regular version rarer than the shiny rare. And it's like, that just sums it up. They literally just gave you one, and it's like,
And I don't mind like the fact that back in the day, at least you had some kind of like, as with the new Pokemon Petulant, like an event to do something with, of like that made them feel special. Like when it's just do a mystery gift and you get the Pokemon, it's like this doesn't even feel special. Oh, and one thing I will say about Magearna is that it does have a cool recolor where if you have every single Pokemon from, I think it's either from Gen 7 or from Gen 8 on like all the way back, like, so you gotta have 900 and something Pokemon all existing on your Pokemon home. If you have them all, you get like a Pokeball coloured version of Magearna that looks cool, which, you know, I was nice enough to eventually get, thanks to a couple of people helping me out with some trades.
And you will never use that Pokemon in a battle.
To be fair, I did put it in my Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just to like use the swag version online and style on people.
Listen, to flex.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, look, I've got the Pokeball version of it. And And then, Generation 8 is the one Pokemon in the world I don't have, which is Zarude. So I missed the event, so fuck you.
Just put them out. If anyone out there's got a Zarude, contact us.
Help me.
wikiweekends@gmail.com or go to Lucas's streams.
Help me.
Lucas will send you $1 on PayPal.
I'll send you 5, fuck it.
And then you'll send it back. Or do you need it? Do you need it for your living dex?
No, as in I need to keep it for a living dex so that I
Lucas
always have it forever.
For $5.
Hell yeah. And then, the reason I wanted to talk about today, of just like, it gave me the excuse to bring up this, is Pecharunt, which is the new poison ghost type mythical Pokemon, including Generation 9. And it is, like, admittedly, it fits in with, like, an epilogue that they've added to the DLC. I don't know. Pokemon said it was going to be about an hour long. I haven't played it yet. But, strike while the iron is hot, I suppose. And, it's, like, linked into the story of the 3 Pokemon that, harass Ogerpon and stuff. And I'm like, at least they made a bit of effort.
None of those words made sense to me.
You haven't played the DLC, so...
It's more as well, I just do not give a fuck about legendary Pokemon. It's like when I look at like competitive tier lists now, and it's like, Ogeron, like, what the fuck's that? Oh, it's a legendary, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. And me and you always try to play, like, against the meta in Pokemon and in many other games. And...
I had one game. I saw you playing Scarlet and Violet. You know what? I'll build a team. So I built like my fighting team. I put Hitmonlee and a Hitmonchan lead. Went in like EV trained them all. First game on casual, a guy just drops in with an Urshifu and a Landorus Theory and said, "Casual? Yeah. This is casual." So guy just brings in the Glock and starts just. That's not casual.
Let me tell you the endorphin rush I got when I went on to ranked with that team that I built, and it was you beat a Charger Bug and a Rhyperior, and I did a Rhyperior. Yeah, a special attacking Rhyperior sweep on like a team with like Landorus, Urshifu. I was like, that felt good.
And that's the thing about Pokemon, you can counterplay some of these legendaries, but the fact that it's so much work to like counter the meta in Pokemon, which is just all legendaries and pseudo legendaries.
That team is only going to work once because then they're going to know my gimmick.
Yep, and just immediately shut it down.
Yeah,
there's not really much you can do about the gimmick of my Pokemon is just numerically better than yours.
Because like,
it's faster, stronger.
I'm going to throw them off with, like, they sent out an intimidation Pokemon to shut down my Rhyperior, but it's like, it was a special build, and, like, you're doing things that they're not expecting you to do, so, like, that works one time.
Yep.
And I did say that we were going to, like, look at how to get them. Generally, a lot of them are just go to events or download mystery gifts. We've been ranting about Pokemon for far too long.
And Speed Racer.
That's true.
I said I've got a degree in film studies. Luke's got a degree in Pokemon.
I might as well do.
These are 2 subjects with which we have, we individually and combined have a lot of knowledge. So tend to go off on one.
It is true, but yes, thank you for listening, and let us know, as I said, which wiki won this week. Yeah, thank you all for watching, and have a lovely week.
Cheers, everyone.